This is part 2 of 3 for August 19th, August 22nd. We're looking at all 6 trigonometric functions and evaluating them. In the first video, we talked about cosecant, secant, and cotangent, and how these are the reciprocal of our sine, cosine, and tangent. We even looked at how we could evaluate secant of 7 pi over 4. Now I'm going to evaluate 4 more of these functions. In this video, we're going to look at cotangent of 7 pi over 6, cosecant of 3 pi over 4, secant of negative 2 pi over 3, and cosecant of negative 3 pi. In the third video, we'll look at evaluating expressions involving all 6 trigonometric functions. All right, cotangent, what we talked about in class is if we can define tangent, I'm going to write this, try to write this, of an angle theta is sine over cosine. We talked about that in previous class. Then cotangent, we said, is the reciprocal. So what we could say is cotangent of an angle is cosine over sine. And this works. So let's take a look. I'm going to kind of box this in over here so we don't work at that. So we're looking at cotangent of 7 pi over 6. We can do cosine over sine. So we could say cosine of 7 pi over 6. We know that over means that we're dividing. Divided by sine of 7 pi over 6. Cosine of 7 pi over 6, if we look at that on our unit circle, that would be negative square root of 3 over 2. We're dividing by sine of 7 pi over 6, which would be negative 1/2. And in order to divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. Right here, what we noticed in class is we have a 2 in our numerator, a 2 in our denominator. We're going to go ahead and divide those out. And we get negative square root of 3 over negative 1. And negative square root of 3 divided by negative 1 would mean that cotangent of 7 pi over 6 is equal to negative divided by negative gives us a positive. So that's cotangent of 7 pi over 6. Now what I would actually recommend is pausing it, trying the next 3 on your own, but we're going to move through these next 3. Just kind of go through a little quicker so that we can keep the file size of this video down and also move on to the last video. So cosecant of 3 pi over 4, I'm going to scroll back up in our notes, we can see that cosecant is related to sine. So let's try to find sine and then take the reciprocal to find cosecant. So cosecant, I'm going to write sine of 3 pi over 4 up here. And sine of 3 pi over 4 would be square root of 2 over 2. Which means that cosecant of 3 pi over 4, we take the reciprocal, 2 over square root of 2. And now we're kind of back to what we did with secant of 7 pi over 4, just above this. We rationalize our denominator. So this would be 2 square root of 2. 2 times the square root of 2 would be 2 square root of 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 would be just 2. And again, the 2's divide out. Oh, this should be 3 pi over 4. And we're left with just square root of 2. Alright. Similar to the problem above. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. Secant, if you look above, hopefully you're taking notes. Secant is related to cosine. So I'm going to start by saying cosine of negative 2 pi over 3. Negative 2 pi over 3. This is where we start getting into the coterminal angles. So if you look at 2 pi over 3 in your unit circle, that's in your second quadrant. And so if we were to reflect it to get the negative, you would reflect that into the third quadrant, and that's similar, or it would land, our coterminal is 4 pi over 3. So we can say cosine, this is the same thing as 4 pi over 3. And cosine of 4 pi over 3 is negative 1/2. All of this work here tells us that secant of negative 2 pi over 3. I'm going to take the reciprocal of negative 1/2. And negative 2 over 1 gives us just negative 2. So we had to find a coterminal angle. Once we found that coterminal angle, we can say the cosine of 4 pi over 3 is negative 1/2. Secant is the reciprocal, so we take the reciprocal of this, and we get negative 2. And similarly here, let's go ahead and box this actually. Let's go. Just so we see where we're working. Cosecant of negative 3 pi. Again, if you scroll to the top, secant is related to sine, so I'm going to say sine of negative 3 pi. Well, hopefully you remember that if it's an odd whole number of pi, its coterminal will always be pi. Sine is y, so sine is 0 here. So this poses a little interesting dilemma. I'm going to take the reciprocal. Really, we could say this is 0 divided by 1 if we wanted to. So that means cosecant of negative 3 pi would be 1 over 0. But we can't divide by 0. Anytime we divide by 0, it's called undefined. So cosecant of negative 3 pi is undefined. And in general, if we find the value of sine, cosine, tangent to be 0, then its reciprocal, secant, cosecant, cotangent, would be undefined. So we can say the cosecant of negative 3 pi is undefined. Hopefully this is helpful in just evaluating secant, cosecant, and cotangent. Part 3 is going to be dealing with the next page and simplifying expressions. So hopefully you view that, and hopefully that's helpful as well.